Hello, my Bill 5000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another That chapter. This one is titled Faking a Terrible Accident to Cover a Brutal Crime. Okay. Hey, I mean, we have on this channel, we have seen people fake a lot of shit to cover up a lot of shit. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities. That being said, let's go ahead and get into today's story. Go ahead, turn the mics down low, put on something comfy, cut up with something special. Mm. Let's get slightly traumatized. Just slightly, you don't want to be full on traumatized. We still have quite a few days left in the week, you know what I mean? So slightly traumatized. All right, let's go ahead and get into this story. Go ahead, turn the mics down low, put on something comfy, cut up with something special. Let's get slightly traumatized.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, you and it's me, we're gonna have a look at a story, right, that takes us to Western Massachusetts, and it is about the 4 trials of Cara Rentala. You see, in the small town of Granby, the year is 2010, paramedic Cara Rentala returned to the home she shared with her wife, Anna Marie, to find Anna Marie, Anne, as they called her, at the bottom of the stairs in the basement. How'd she get there? And of course, before we get into it, please subscribe to see 2 brand new bizarre-ass crime videos every week. On Tuesdays and on Fridays. There was a crash bang wallop tale of woe. Maybe intentionally, maybe not. Who knows? Maybe whom does? Because this is still largely unfinished beeswax, and it takes us to Big Massy, Massachusetts, so you know what that means. We gotta go. And with that, let's add an extra O there. Let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go. I don't know why he keeps cutting himself off on that part. I love the let's give it a go.
So to set the scene, which sometimes I do. Sometimes I do in these videos. It depends, really. Because sometimes I'm just like, who cares? The scene for this one is Granby, West.
I guess you, and I understand that. Sometimes you have to set up a really good scenario or the scene for it and before you can tell a story. In some situations, the story's just, damn, you don't need nothing else.
Western Mass. And it's a town with not a lot of it. Mass, I mean. Because it's only itty-bitty. Home to approximately 6,000 people, it sits northeast of Springfield, and it's pretty rural. If trees, grass, so forth and so on were your thing, well, wouldn't you just love it? Generally, though, people like, this quiet place, and it's best known for absolutely nothing. It's a village with not much to say about it, so I won't say a lot about it. Swiftly moving on. On the southwestern side of town, on Barton Street, that's where we're going. Because that is where
he is in rare form today, folks. Oh, it's gonna be fun.
Cara Rentala and her wife, Anna Marie Cochran, lived with their adopted daughter, Brianna. And so, to begin, at approximately 3
cute little family, though,
p.m. on March 29th, 2010, Cara Rentala and her 2-year-old daughter Brianna, they were driving into town, into Granby, to pick up a few bits and bobs, yourself, and in the suburbs of Springfield, they were going to pick up some food, they had a little bit of shopping to do, the usual shite. It was a dirty old day, a wetty in springtime, and they were driving to the mall. While there, Cara texted wifey back home a few times. She didn't get no response, though. She had a few places to stop off at that evening, and Cara began texting more frequently, before finally calling Anna Marie to check if everything was okay. She was getting worried. She would leave numerous voicemails.
On our way, Burger King. Call, please, please, please. We are still driving. Love you, bye.
She eventually made it back home.
Man, nah, I'm gonna go ahead and let you know. That's shady. That's shady. Cause, all right, ladies, gentlemen, we all know how those I'm not being answered, leaving messages on the voicemail goes. Hey, baby. Okay, I guess you're not picking up. All right. I'll call you back in a little bit. Hey, baby, you still ain't picking up. All right. All right. Why the hell ain't you picking up? The fuck is going on? All right. Now, I have called your fucking phone like 100 damn times. I've only called like five. I have called your phone like 100 times. And now, these 100 times, you know how many times you have picked up? None. What in the hell is going on? Like, is everything okay? You need to be getting in touch with me, or I am turning everything around. We are, I'm coming. I'll be home in a minute. Fuck it. That's how those go. We all know it.
Around 7 p.m. and she went inside her home to check. Everything good? No. Next thing you know, she was banging on the neighbor's door, giving Brianna to them and say, call 911. And she was in the basement.
911, the Central Court. What's your emergency?
Hi, my neighbor just came over. She was pretty distraught when she come over here with the baby. She said the other one was down in the basement, but she didn't say much.
Possible, maybe a domestic.
She was dead on the floor, covered in paint. Anna Marie Cochran Rentala grew up in nearby Springfield, born in 1972 to William and Lucy. Anne, she was someone who was feisty and fun-loving. Live,
Heck yeah.
laugh, love was, unironically, if you can believe that, her motto. That's how she loved and laughed her life. She was, all about it. She was out there. She took that bull called life by the horns, and then what are you supposed to do with it then? Anna Marie knew when she was young that she was attracted to other women, and in 2002 she met Cara Rentala, 7 years older than herself. They met through work, as they were both paramedics based in Springfield, and while Anne, she was out there, happy-go-lucky, no one to, shy away from letting you know what was going on in her noodle. Cara is kind of like the complete opposite. Reserved, kept her thoughts to herself, hard to read. They fell mightily.
Opposites do attract. I'm just saying. You can't be too different though. There is two opposite, like magnets. Eventually, it's just like get back.
In love and would marry and adopt baby Brianna at less than a week old. And so they were this happy little family, living in the rural countryside until 29th of March 2010 came around and was found at the bottom of the basement. How did she get there? Was it a tragic accident? If it was, would I be making this video? But why was she covered in paint?
No.
Police arrived at about 7:20 and found Cara with...
What he should do is on April Fools or something. Come in, be doing a story, and just be like, yep, and everyone lived. And then that'd be that would fuck up so many people. They'd be like, what? They all lived? Oh.
With Anne, cradling her on her lap. There were two colours standing out, red and white. Blood was pooling.
Maybe she was making pink.
And also, white paint covered the floor and Anne's body. Anne had several cuts to her head. There was a large amount of blood. And she was cold, like she'd been lying on the floor for some time. Rigor mortis was already setting in.
Oh, damn. That's
now, your first thought is, she trips down the stairs, she hits a bucket of paint, that's your blood and your paint everywhere. Right there, right? Mystery solved. Not quite. Some parts of the paint were dry, some parts of the paint were wet, as if there was a spill, then more spill, as if the paint didn't get everywhere at the same time. Anne also had rigor mortis, which only sets in after you've been dead, for a couple of hours, and it gradually sets in over time. But by how rigor mortis is, her body was, and the paint not being...
How rigor mortized? What? She was laid up with the riggers, bro. That's all I know. I don't know. What would be she was... We're going with rigor mortized. It sounds awesome. I mean, it sounds awful, but it sounds awesome.
that dry, it seemed like she died and the paint were spilled at different times. And just by the positioning of the paint can and by the positioning of Anne's body, it didn't seem like, this is like, whoops, take a tumble, like Looney Tunes down the stairs. There was blood in various parts of the basement too, including under a laundry basket, which was odd. It looked staged, to be honest. I mean, you can see even in this picture, droplets of blood, as if from a high-impact injury.
We were talking, she gave me coffee. She's like, can you just go to the mall or whatever? That's all I can think of, It's a little, goodbye, great, see you later, And here we are.
When Kara was questioned, she said that day was as normal as heckin' heck. And she worked the night shift, but she arrived home, around 8 p.m. Kara got up, they had a cup of joe together, they were playing with Brianna, just doing regular parenty things with your young daughter. Then Anne, she was gonna go have a snooze before she began, her next shift that night. She asked Kara if she'd pop into town, into Granby, into Holyoke, to pick up a few bits and bobs. So they left, but then Kara wasn't able to contact Anne, and then they found her.
This is nothing like I've ever been trained for. I've never experienced anything like this. Honestly, training, I know now I couldn't work on a loved one.
A couple of days later, though, the medical examiner was able to release their findings. The cause of death was strangulation. This ain't no trip down the stairs. Anne had 23 fresh bruises on her, and multiple blunt force injuries to the head. The autopsy determined her death to be a result of manual strangulation. Someone had choked her out. Would have taken about 4 minutes with the amount of pressure that was on her neck. Now, with a homicide on their hands, the police investigators began to look very closely. They got the binoculars out and began to examine the marriage between Kara and Anne, and it wasn't all it was cracked up to be at all. From the beginning of their marriage, there was strife, stemming from Anne's love of credit card debt.
Anne has very expensive taste and likes to spend a lot.
She was mad about it. It's the only explanation, that she just loved being in debt. Because, there's no other way she would be in that much debt, spending that much money. She loved owing the bank thousands, Kara, bit more frugal, was like,
I mean, shopping addiction is still an addiction. It is. I'm just saying, like, drugs isn't. You can be addicted to drugs, alcohol, shopping. You can be addicted to sex. Like, I mean, you can be addicted to almost freaking anything.
Not too keen on being in the old debt. But in September 2008, that's when the first complaints were made to the police. And she showed up at the Granby Police Department one day. She was saying Kara had been physically abusive towards her. Kara was arrested. She was charged with abuse, with battery, but the charges, and dropped the charges later on. Then 8 months after that, a 911 call was made from the Coverup home, right? The operator, there's nobody on the line, but the operator could just hear 2 women screaming. When police arrived to their house, both Kara and Anne were like, yeah, no, it's all good in the hood. We're just chilling. Brianna must have accidentally dialed the phone. Yeah. Later that same day, Kara filed for divorce though, sobbing as she did so. And a few weeks later, they both sought restraining orders, on each other. The judge, he basically threw all this out though. He said, if either of you ever show up in my courthouse again, I'm taking your daughter off you.
Alright, so let's back up a bit. You have a history of domestic violence.
Oh yeah, that's right. They adopted her. Yeah. Oh shit, they're gonna take that baby. Be like, nah, bro. Ain't dealing with your husband. You can't blame him though. I mean, would you want a child who's already had probably a really hard fucking life up to this point to have to sit there and think that it's okay to treat your spouse like shit? Yeah, people argue. We all argue. No one agrees on anything and everything. If you do, there's something fucking wrong. You're brainwashed. Seek help. But there's a point where it's too much. It goes too far. It happens too often. That can get dangerous, because then you end up on things like that chapter, Coffee House Crime, Mr. Ballin, Nick Crawley, and stuff like that. Then you get me stuck reacting to you. Nobody wants that.
Diana, right? We'd argue and it would get physical, absolutely. And I'm no angel, but I can honestly say it was definitely back and forth.
In the meantime, Anne began an affair with a police officer named Carla, moving in with her at one point, leaving Brianna with Cara. However, after racking up $10,000 in debt on Carla's credit cards, Carla had outlasted her usefulness, and Anne went back to Cara. By the way, Anne and Carla were about $100,000 in debt. Nice chunk of cha-ching. You really must enjoy being in debt and using your credit cards and overdrafts and that kind of stuff, because that doesn't exactly happen by accident. And this wasn't, $100,000 in debt as in a mortgage or like healthcare bills or something like this. This is buying just regular L shite. How the bank did not cut them off, I do not know. Then in 2010, both Anne and Cara began shooting the shit.
Because it don't matter. They get their money. They get their money. Believe that. Oh, you want 10,000? Fuck yeah. We'll get our money. You might not have none left, but we'll get it.
With guys they knew. Now, they were both like lesbians, so it wasn't like a sexual relationship, but it was definitely an emotional relationship. Cara had her good friend Mike. They would grab beer.
Which one's worse, the sexual or emotional? I'd say they're both pretty fucked up, but the emotional would probably hurt more. Yeah. Ugh.
Beers together. Anne was not too happy when she found out that her wife was grabbing beers with a guy. It is becoming very clear how you feel about me. I don't like feeling this way. You are my wife. I hate the relationship we have. Cara replied, all caps. Okay, you being over the top and crazy for no reason. It's okay. He's my friend. Period. Not doing anything wrong. Anne. You are rude. I'm gonna leave. You don't give a shit. You are rude and disrespectful.
She was so mad. I don't trust you. You do things behind my back. I'm like, but it's Mike. I feel like I've been here by talking about our past stuff that we have agreed to, be together, move on, and put our terrible bad past behind us.
In the meantime, though, Anne was flirtily texting a colleague from work named Mark. So it was like, pot meat cow. They'd gotten close over the years, and they would arrange their shifts so they could work together. They were so close, Mark, like an idiot, took out a credit card, gave it to Anne, saying, here you go, here's credit card. That was $7,000 in debt. Thanks, Mark. And so, even though the police, they looked into Mark, they looked into Carla, it was kind of more of a formality, because all roads led directly back.
I have friends, but I have never had a friend be like, oh, you need a credit card? I got you, bud. Man, I need better friends or dumber friends. I don't know. I want friends that give me money. I'd love to have a friend that gave me money.
Back to Cara.
What do you think happened? I don't know. I want to say, if I had to guess, I said she fell down the stairs. It's my guess. She tripped on the stupid shoes. We have our shoes all the way down there. I wish I had answers. I wish. Yeah.
In October 2011, a year and a half after Anna Marie Cochran.
She got some pretty good acting skills, though, bro.
Rintala's murder at the bottom of the stairs, Cara Rintala was living in Rhode Island with her parents and with Brianna when she was arrested.
After 18 months of thorough investigation, the Northwestern District Attorney says he knows who killed Anna Maria Rintala, her wife.
And without a doubt, there was only one course that our office would take. That Cara Rintala is responsible for the death of her partner, Anne Marie.
Did assault and beat Anna Marie Rintala with the intent to murder her, and by such assault and beating did murder said person. How do you plead to this indictment?
I ask for not guilty plea to be entered on the adjournment.
She was charged with first-degree murder. She was in fact the first woman in Massachusetts history to be charged with the murder of her wife. So congratulations, Kara, on that one. But, so kind of from how the story started to here, pretty straightforward. From here on outwards, it is not straightforward at all. And so began trial number 1.
Jurors heard opening arguments today in the state's first murder case ever involving a same-sex married couple.
22 News reporter Julian McDonald was in court to hear allegations of the couple's fights, financial troubles, and suspicions of infidelity.
This homicide did not occur.
So because there was a lesbian couple, they're really going to throw in that they had friends that was guys and stuff? Like, who cares? Who cares? If a lesbian wants to flirt with a dude on the phone, who gives a shit? That's dumb. Like, how you going to be like, she was flirting with some dude. Like, she's supposed to be a lesbian. Well, she was flirting with some dude. Who cares? Maybe they just have, like, flirty personalities. I don't know. This is stupid.
The blue.
Prosecutor Stephen Gagne painted a picture Wednesday of a turbulent marriage between Kara Rintala and her wife, Anna Marie Cochran. The couple was drowning in $95,000 of credit card and auto loan debt.
That's why she murdered her. It wasn't because of her flirting with Mike or Mark or whoever the fuck. It wasn't because the other one's flirting with whoever either. It was because of the $95,000 of debt.
There were restraining orders, divorce filings, and multiple calls to Granby police during their 2.5-year marriage.
Kara Lee Rintala was charged with assault and battery. She was booked. She was arrested.
The prosecution was running with the abusive relationship on both sides, the numerous 911 calls, restraining orders, the spending, the cheating, emotional cheating.
Quote, today I've reached all that
Stephen Gagne, is that his name? That's a weird name, bro.
I can take. And this is with 9 months more still to go before the murder happened.
All that. Anne never, uncharacteristically, replied to a text Mark sent to her at around 2 p.m. Mark was saying that his sister was very sick. Anne never replied, which was kind of weird that she didn't reply because, she was so close with him. Then Kara says she left at 3 p.m. out for a bit of an L drive in her truck. In the back of the truck was a laundry basket and a red bag. They somehow disappeared, which the prosecution said likely contained blood evidence, clothing and the like. A bloody rag was found in a McDonald's bin where Kara had been.
She decides to get out of her truck in a pouring rainstorm, walk over to the farthest most trash receptacle in McDonald's, dispose of 3 cleaning rags, and drive away.
The prosecution said that Kara killed her wife Anne, then she went out on a drive shopping. She called, texted Anne Marie's phone, Anne Marie's phone as a ruse to cover up where she had gone. Anne, from the way her body was, likely had been killed between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Kara would have been in the house before she drove off. So, there you have it. Circumstantial, but clean cut. The trial lasted 2 weeks, at the end of which, well, the defense had an argument too.
You can't prove the truth.
Oh yeah, there's still 8 minutes left, bro. We're about ready to hear some shit.
Truth of something, it's simply not true. You can pick up these little pieces that Mr. Gagne has made reference to, and you can try to pile them on top of each other to reach the conclusion that you want drawn. But it's a house of cards. A puff of wind blows it all away.
The defense had another medical examiner who said Anne died between 2:30 and 5:20 p.m. when Kara was likely out of the house. The bloody rag found in McDonald's was also so degraded it was impossible to say whose blood it was, or even if the blood was human.
I have no idea what the source of the DNA on that rag is.
They questioned Mark, who not only lied about where he was on the day Anna Marie died, allegedly he was also so obsessed with his just good friend at work that when Anne died, he took her sleeping bag, Anne's sleeping bag, brought it to the house he shared with his wife and kids, and slept in it for 2 months after she died. Totally normal behavior. He first said that the day Anne died, he'd been at home with his family. Then he changed it to he'd gone shopping for furniture with his family. Then he changed it later again to he had just gone shopping alone. And he had bought cat litter for his cat. I mean, I hope not for him. Cat hairs were found on Anne's body. And Anne, or Cara, did not have a cat. The defense argued beyond reasonable doubt Cara Rintala killed her. Me bollocks. The jury deliberated.
They didn't have a cat. She's got cat hair on her. Was she at his house previously? They do work together. I mean, there's a lot of different ways the cat hair could have got on her, alright? For one, match and see if it is his cat. You can do that. If it is, then literally they work together. He's probably got cat hair on his uniform somewhere or whatever. Oh, man, this is fucking good.
For days before declaring they were deadlocked, and it was declared a mistrial. In 2014, the second trial took place.
The jury in the murder retrial of Cara Rintala in Northampton deliberated for its second full day today without reaching a decision. The jury began deliberations after closing arguments were completed Tuesday. Rintala is accused of murdering her wife in their Granby home in 2010. Her first trial ended last March when the judge declared a mistrial after the jury failed to reach a unanimous decision. Deliberations will resume tomorrow.
The result, the same. Hung jury, if you can believe that.
But at this point, I am declaring a mistrial. Thank you.
Judge Mary LaRoupe has declared a mistrial in the second murder trial of Cara Rintala. It just happened.
In 2016,
Now, if they declared a mistrial, that pretty much just leaves it open to where they can try again, right? Man, that would suck. Eventually, one of them is going to take, you know?
Cara went on trial for a third time.
This case, ladies and gentlemen, is about unconscious bias. A mind
Keeping with the same fucking lawyer, though. I don't blame her. Dude's slick.
mindset that caused the investigators and the experts to focus on one theory, one person, and to ignore everything that didn't fit, sometimes going to frankly ridiculous extremes to do so.
The prosecution were determined to see this job all the way through. You know, if she was the first woman to go on trial for killing her wife in Massachusetts history, they wanted to make sure they got a guilty verdict. So they went with essentially the same argument. You know, this marriage had gone to shite, and one day, you know, they'd gotten into an argument. Anne, she either tripped down the stairs or Cara pushed her, and then when she was lying at the bottom of the stairs, choked her, strangled her to death, used paint to try and muddle up the scene, cover up evidence.
Before the paramedics and the police arrive, she makes one final desperate attempt at covering up. She picks up that container of paint, she pours that paint.
This time the prosecution also called a paint expert, if you can believe that. How do I get that job? Who could, you know, who's going to be his expertise, is going to be used to determine, I don't know, paint. How the paint was. Well, so the type of paint it was is white paint, but like it's when it's wet, it's pink, and then it dries into white. And from the spillage and how dry and wet different parts of it are, you know, I guess the idea was he could figure out when the paint had been left there. This will come back. How stupid it is.
They make paint that is one color, then you put it on and it dries a whole other color. Like, legitimately, like, you put it on pink and it dries white. That's weird. Like, if you put your hand on it and heat it up, does that part where your hand touched turn back pink? Is it like one of those fucking things? That would. Can they make paint like that? If they do make paint like that, would someone please leave it in the comments down below, because I really want to paint one of my walls that and just randomly touch it. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to drop my britches and I'm going to put my butt on it just to see what happens. That's just how it is.
The defense once again took aim at Mark. They took aim at Carla this time too, Anne's one-time girlfriend. She said she was in the gym all day, and CCTV supported that. Except a bank receipt from a bank near Granby did not. Well, I guess third time's a charm. because at the end of her third trial, Cara Rintala was found guilty of murder.
A dramatic ending to Cara Rintalla's third murder trial. The jury deliberated for 4
Maybe people's just getting tired of hearing the story. Like, that's like, man. We're like the third set that's built up of this shit. Let's just call her guilty. They're not going to stop until we do.
days and late this afternoon delivered a unanimous decision that Cara Rintala killed her wife in their Granby home in 2010 with malice aforethought and extreme atrocity.
Is she not guilty? Guilty of murder in the first degree, guilty of murder in the second degree, or guilty of voluntary manslaughter?
She's guilty of murder in the first degree.
Rintala shouted out in frustration and asked the courtroom, "What about my daughter?"
Rintala will be sentenced on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Under Massachusetts law, a first-degree murder conviction carries a mandatory sentence
Who's that person?
of life in prison with no parole.
Rintala was sentenced.
Is that the dude who was sleeping in the bag? Is it? I hope not.
To live the rest of her natural life in prison at MCI Framingham.
But did she do it?
The fact that Cara initially found Anne at the bottom of the stairs, she ran to the neighbors before checking on her, convinced the jury. The paint convinced the jury. Cara was sentenced to life without parole.
The fact that she ran her daughter to the neighbors so she didn't have to see her other mommy, potentially dead or hurt. I probably would have done the same thing. Like if I would have walked in there and I'd been like, you can kind of tell. I mean, she's a paramedic. She probably could tell that it was a lot worse than what it was. And her first instinct was, I don't want the baby seeing that. Got to get it to the neighbors. Be like, can you watch this? Please call 911. And that's probably why she might have had him call 911 and went back over and started like trying to see if she could help. We don't know. We was not there. But who else out there thinks that the reason why they came back with the guilty like that was just because it's like, you know something, bro? Look, this is the third fucking time. Like, this judge is just going to keep calling people in here until someone says guilty. Let's just, fuck it, she's guilty.
But yeah, that was overturned recently, so.
This case has already seen 3 trials. Now the district attorney's office says they're ready for a 4th. Cara Rintala is getting another chance at freedom. On Monday, the state's highest court threw out her conviction for killing her wife, Anna Marie, in their Granby home in 2010. The court ruled that the trial judge should not have allowed the testimony of an expert witness called by the prosecution. That expert had testified about paint found on the victim's body in the floor, with the prosecution arguing that it was relevant to the timeline of the homicide. The SJC disagreed and the conviction was vacated.
In 2021, the courts ruled she should get a new 4th
fucking paint expert.
trial. The paint. Yeah. The court ruled the paint expert was no such thing, unsurprisingly.
This so-called paint expert was allowed to testify that the paint had been spilled within 30 minutes of first responders arriving there. In this case, the way in which the expert did his own experiments was simply not reliable. It was not based on the scientific method.
So now, Cara Rintala will get a 4th trial in September 2023. My god. And so that is not the end of this old one. It is still ongoing. They are pretty determined to put her away. I mean, fuck, after this stage, you think you'd just be like, or let's just leave it. Let sleeping dogs lie.
Right.
13 years after the fact. But I guess here, if it was my family member, if the victim was my family member, I'd probably want to see this through to the very bitter end. Did Cara do it? Push her wife down the stairs and slowly suffocate her to death? I don't know. The evidence kind of likely, the whole story kind of likely points in Cara's direction, but we've also seen in stories before that the evidence can sometimes point in the wrong direction. Who knows? Cara does, I guess, But when it comes to the end of trial number 4, will the jury believe her?
I don't know.
Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this whole video, folks. It means a lot to me. So yeah, I guess, like, that's it.
Mike, it's always a pleasure being on your show, but it's always a pleasure reacting to your shit. Okay, here's my question. How many times can they just keep doing that? Like, isn't there like a point where it's like, okay, we've had like 6 mistrials. Let's just call it. And it's like tic-tac-toe. You can keep going, but eventually, you know, cat wins sometimes. All right, I really enjoyed today's story. Like, that's some. It's different than most of the other videos we watch. Like, I can actually see maybe the lady not doing it, and I can kind of see it being the dude that took the sleeping bag home. Oh fuck! Did anyone look more into him? I mean, he sounds like a lying piece of shit. I mean, he might be a good person, but it sounds like he straight up lied. What else has he lied about? You know what I mean? All right. Like I said, I really enjoyed today's video. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please leave a thumbs up. It really helps. If you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, deranged things that just make it go, how? What? Think about subscribing. I say all 3 of those things a lot. Hell, sometimes I throw extra ones in there. All right, as always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Wow. See, like, we never know in these situations. The only ones that we'll actually know is if there is, like, someone right there watching it. The person who is dead or the person who did it. That's literally going to be all who knows. And we just have to just guess from clues and and it's all open to interpretation for me. Like, you know something? I'd make a horrible jury person because I can be convinced very evidently easily that it wasn't someone I have been convinced about several times watching these things.